So a further question again arises out of this. Why don't these parents come? Well, one reason is that for many of them, school is a place of failure. It's an area of experience and activity that they can't really understand. And I think this is partly attributable to our traditional notion of education.
It is one of our duties, I think, as teachers and in some ways leaders of the community, to encourage parents to be interested in schools, because in that way they will be interested in their children, and in that way their children will understand that the parents as well as the teachers are working towards a very good end towards education.
Those members of the PTA directly involved with the school do try to involve all the parents, but there is a group that just doesn't come. They don't come to the meetings. They don't really come down to the school at all.
I like to see more parents go along to these meetings because it gives us different views on the situations and the subjects we want to discuss. But can't take them by the scruff of the neck and take them along.
I think it's a good idea. I'm not a joiner actually, but I think it's a good idea.
I bring them letters, but my mum hasn't got time, and my dad goes to work.
The communication problem was such that to start with, I sent letters out, got a very poor response, and I thought that perhaps the parents didn't care. But as I talked to them, I realised that they did care. They cared an awful lot about what was going on in the school, and they cared a lot about its development. But they weren't the sort of people who would either answer letters or write their names upon notice boards. And so I realised that the important thing was personal communication.
The parents of my children aren't going to come to see me. I have to go and see them. I couldn't do it if I didn't go and see the parents, if I weren't very, very much involved. I like to think that I'm really looked upon as a friend. If children have got tremendous emotional problems, and I don't know the families, then I can't understand their problems, can I? I think we could do a lot more to involve the parents whom we could help, so that it's a two-way thing. I mean, our parents are helping us. A lot of parents need us to help them. They've never ever been taken notice of in the school before, because they're very, very much the underdogs. They've always been they're no use to us, so we don't use them. And I think we could do a lot more to involve these sorts of parents. And Sue Maud was very aware of this.
It's not enough just to say to parents, come into school and do these various activities which we will give for you. I think for a real community school, you've got to go out to the parents. And that's what we try to do. At least that's what I try to do, through personal contact. I keep going back to personal contact because I think that was the most important thing in that school. The activities that went on were very important because it brought children and parents into contact with each other. But I think the most important thing was the fact that parents and people in the community started to help each other.
Well, sometimes the young mums really aren't. I think sometimes they need a terrific amount of support. Being so isolated like this, it's not like the slum areas that we used to have. You can't go and talk to aunts or mum or grandma, so they've got to have somebody to talk to, and I think this is where we should come in. Mothers who aren't academically minded, we found they were rather tentative about coming in to offer any help when it was needed, until we mentioned that we'd like some domestic help or just general mopping up. And so we got them in, and we've got the liaison between the academic and the less academic mums. And so now we're getting a good sort of community.
One particular parent who had lots of problems, and she got a little girl, and she didn't have anybody with whom she could leave this child, and she needed to go on a course very desperately. So she came to the school and she asked for help, and I went to see various parents, and they said, yes, we'll look after the child. And that child was looked after every day from 4 o'clock until 6, and some weekends, and during the holiday period too, by different parents for a period of about 6 weeks. And from that particular parent who was extremely introverted. She'd come to the school for the first time. She'd not been there very long. And in order to have this help, she had to go into parents' homes. She met lots of other people. She became much more able to cope. She realised that people weren't against her. She realised that people were willing to help, and she was amazed by this because she'd never had anybody who would be willing to help her before. And from that, what I thought was the most incredible thing and the nicest thing about it was that some months later, about a year later, somebody came into the school, a new parent with difficulties, without anywhere to live, and she felt capable of helping that woman, and she took her in a home to help.
As you know, we have in our school a teacher who is responsible for community developments. We call him a teacher leader of community activities. He has been here since Easter this year, and prior to that we had Miss Maud who was here for nearly 2 years.
The mainstream of my job at Hotwells School is really to act as a middleman between the community and the school itself. I have to try and act as a listening ear to the community, to the needs of the community, to what they want, what their needs are.
It hasn't always been so that we've had a teacher responsible for this development. When we started it initially, we gradually developed family school, holiday school, and community school activities with no additional help at all. This became quite a burden upon myself and my staff, and to some degree a burden upon very willing parents. When we had done this for several years, we asked if the local authority could help, and although it wasn't easy to acquire, we were eventually allocated a teacher who was responsible for this development.
To be successful, a community school needs to involve parents from all social backgrounds. Now, achieving this takes time, and in the past, teachers have had to find this time in addition to their normal teaching commitments.
I think as Hotwells has a community project leader, he's probably in the best position to bridge between the school and the community and get involved far more with parents. And I think he could do a very valuable service in bringing far more parents into the school and getting them involved without them feeling that it's a very formal sort of involvement.
I'd like to see Hotwells School developing so that it's not just the parents, but it's the whole community who are involved, so that it really is a community school. And if it doesn't develop like that, then Hotwells School may not have the same atmosphere that it has now, which I think is so marvellous.